Politically, lots happening with Wexner and Trump and Iran, but we don't do that on Saturday. On Saturday, we want to talk business. All business. It's all business. One of the things that you're going to go through, no matter what you're doing with your business and your finances and your kids and your debt and your mortgages and your student loans, etc., banking, is you're in a situation now where it's from the price of gold to the price of groceries to the price of stocks. Hold on. Forgot to do this again. Come on. Okay, sorry about that. 1983. All right, enough of that. There's no easy answers when it comes to finances right now. I think if I am looking over, like you can see, like probably 50 miles or something, because I just came into West Virginia, and like it's like this welcome center that sits up in the mountains. That's sort of the way you should look at this. If you want to sit around and talk about whether or not the NASDAQ is going to go up or down, that's fine. I don't care. Gold, same thing. But I think at this point, it's not even really a matter of let's sit around and listen to Bloomberg and figure out what to do with our money. If we really are at the end of, and I think we're at the end of the war on terror that began on 9/11, right? And more people, I just see like a little bit of a drip of this, like Building 7 did not blow itself up. That's like a new meme on social media. That's right. And this 50-50 chance they're going to have an attack on Iran, and how big it'll be and how they'll respond and how Russia and China will respond. So these are all really difficult issues of, and I'm not just doing this to terrify you, like into you should do this or send us money or you should. That's not my point at all. But you're at the end of a war. America's financially, spiritually, emotionally exhausted. When the president of the United States has to run on a platform of the price of eggs, you're at the end of a war. Now, we went off the gold standard because of the Vietnam War. We don't have anything to show for the Vietnam War. We don't have anything to show for the war on terror, except the crazy people, the crazies, the Jared Kushner, the Book of Revelation is their guidebook for this. Just to hit on that again. So it's exhausted America's industrial capacity, technology. I mean, we have this one big, I won't say who, but a friend of mine said that AI is America's big Hail Mary. The two Hail Marys we have right now are Palantir and Iran. And if we do take out Iran, Iran will take out the Straits of Hormuz. There'll be no oil flow through the Straits of Hormuz. That's literally like from here to that mountain over there is how narrow the Straits of Hormuz are. It's just like a high school science project could like make a missile fly that far. So I think the big transition is this. Here's what I got for you. We're not going to sit around and talk about what we're going to invest in and listen to Druckenmiller and Tepper and all these and fucking O'Leary and who's the Ackman and all these like fake supermen billionaires that have never fucking built anything. They've just extracted all the wealth up into various private things. They're now all going to be tokenized and all sold into your retirement plan because there's nobody to sell them to. You get the idea? Like they've hoovered up all the real assets and all the cash flows of America into, and the biggest one is Apollo. I like to point out that Apollo is going to work with JP Morgan, and that was put together by a guy named Leon Black who raped a 7-year-old. Finance isn't going to be about like just this passive thing. I'm going to put money here. I'm going to put money here. It's going to finally come back to America, and this is the big theme here: tokenization of real world assets and all this that you've heard from me for 5 years, because I've said over and over and over and over again. You're going to wake up one day at the end of Gone with the Wind, and you're going to have to go back to Terra and plant turnips in the front fucking yard, and that's where we are. So I was just communicating this morning over breakfast with a retired woman in Minnesota, northern Minnesota, at the 47th parallel. It's farther north than Quebec City and Montreal. And she's just like going to town on Manus. Like she's taken over Minnesota with Manus. I think this is what you have to do. I've only had one person reach out to me. I put the map up. And I said, hey, I made this map and I played with it during the Super Bowl. Why don't you go get Manus for 1995 and like take over your state? One person in the United States of America followed me up on that. 350 million people, one person gets the joke. And I say that not to excoriate, my following, but to say like, you don't get it, people. You just still don't fucking get it. You think that 50,000 on the Dow doesn't represent anything except inflation and debt. Trump, the Attorney General, they think we're going to attack. What happens if we attack Iran and win? Let's think this through for a minute. So let's say there's this massive jets, missiles, Palantir, cell phones are blowing people's heads off, the whole thing. Iran just erupts and is like there truly is regime. Russia and China are not going to let that happen. Russia and China are not going to let Israel take over Iran. Not going to happen. I mean, at this point, you have to ask yourself, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. In other words, we actually might win the war on terror. But their plan is insane. They're trying to take over the world. I hope you understand that. They're trying to take over the world. 7 million people are trying to take over the world from 7 billion people. That's why it's a theocracy. You go listen to the ambassador to Israel. It was just interviewed by Tucker. And like Tucker's in on it too, right? So what they're doing is they're using this madness of this war on terror to come into America and just eradicate everything that you know about America. Like there's no military industrial complex anymore. There's no like there's no like American empire. See, they're getting rid of all that. It's all gone. That's why the White House is just covered with like gold, like plated trash, like from the Trump Tower, right? That's why they took down these things. Everything in America is being removed to be replaced by, wait for it, technology. And you're now like in the midst of this thing where you sort of don't want to participate in all the technology because you know it's surveillance, but you have to at the same time. So finance is not going to be about sitting around watching Jim fucking Cramer and waiting for the next round of tax cuts and interest rate reductions. Finance is going to become about doing things and building things. So along those lines, we have some relationships that are literally going to come together. It will be finished in February. The first one was with Aragon. They all begin with A. The second was with Altruist. Go look them up. You have to actually do something here. This isn't just like you're going to listen to me and I'm going to listen to the radio and you're going to buy some crypto or something. That's over. Go look at Aragon. It's 10 years old. Go look at Altruist. It's the first new digital custodian. We do continue to have a relationship with Agent Hub. Instead of doing things with Manus, we can build super intelligent AI. I was just talking about this. We're now moving from just talking about agentic AI to agentic swarms. What? Yeah, like for $1,000 a month, you could have 10,000 agents operating on your behalf. That's why OpenAI just bought out the guy who created Clawbot. They made 1.6 million. I mean, if you followed me for some time, once in a while I come out with this goofy thing about the fucking French tomahawk thing. You ever heard that? The Francesca? They're like little curved, the axe part of it's curved down and the handle's curved back, so when you throw it, it like kicks up and stuff. That's what the agents are. They're going to be called agent swarms. So now here we are in the middle of the tech. You got like Palantir, who, Alex Karp is a complete freak, complete like mentally deficient wacko asshole running the war on terror. I just want you to understand what this is. Okay. That's over there. And then over here, you have all this technology. It's almost free. There's a woman right now in Minnesota making literally, I said, I'm drinking coffee and I'm like, why don't you make it? I just whipped out 3 things. I was like, we need 5 million homes. We need 5 million head of cattle, and we need $5 million invested in every opportunity zone. And she's like, that sounds great. Like, and starts tapping away. $19.95 a month, and that thing can just sit there and chew through all that. Now, I'm not saying whatever it spits out is what you should go do, but your ability to live in this world where you're either going to get sprayed with fentanyl piss from Alex Karp, or you can go rebuild your $64 million strategy. You know someone? That's her responding to me. Or you can go do things yourself. There's no more in between anymore, people. You're not just going to watch TV and the stock market's going to go up. It's all inflation. Since the beginning of the war, the stock market's went from 10,000 to 50,000. That's 5x. Gold went up 22x because we lost. At the end of World War II, we had 2/3 of the world's gold and 3/4 of the world's industrial capacity, or vice versa. I always forget which. Like, we had everything. Okay, we have our reputation, depleted our wealth, our debt, our children, our attention spans, our IQ, our educational facilities. Kids are going to fucking Ivy League schools and they can't do algebra 2 and they can't read 40 pages and put something down on paper. This is how serious this is. This is what's your Roman Empire. There's not like some flicky dick speculation that's going to get us out of this. That is what it is. It's all about, like, if you want to like read it's almost political. If you want to read, I haven't posted it yet, but if you want to read something political, there, on Farcaster, Vitalik Buterin like created this kind of, it's almost like the Declaration of Independence or something. Like, it doesn't say man is endowed with unalienable rights from God or something like that. But Vitalik almost says and I completely agree with him. The real issue is whether or not individuals are allowed to have privacy and agency, both in the technical term and just the legal term. The real question is, we can't just like become Chinese or become Muslims or become Russians. The real crisis of the West is whether or not we're going to maintain some sort of Western individualism and legal safety while we're being. Last night I did a thing. I said the Republican Party is the party of treason because they've gotten in bed with people who want to erase the Constitution. The Republican Party has destroyed the Constitution because I intuitively figured out that they actually are the reincarnation of the Confederacy. Go look at the map. Go look at the voting. Go look at the county by county voting. The Republican Party is the Confederacy. They have a theological, they have a theocratic worldview that puts them over law, order, the Constitution, culture, anything. And that's what they share with Israel. And you can go watch Huckabee just to perfectly explain it to you. It's hard to watch. On one hand, he's just like a huckster from Arkansas. No, no, he's part of this gangster thing that runs the fucking White House. And the Democrats, I'll beat up on them. I'm not going to go back into like politics, but I just have to do it for a minute. We're going to pick up a few seats in the thing. They just don't understand the severity of the situation. The Straits of Hormuz. If there was a devastating attack on Iran and Russia and China, remember we just had either the 75th or the 80th anniversary of victory in Europe, right? In Moscow. The United States wasn't even there. We beat Japan and Germany together with China and Russia. We didn't even fucking go. We didn't go. It was like Terry Bradshaw not going to Chuck Noll's funeral or something. China and Russia now see that they are responsible to prevent the world from blowing up. The end of oil flowing in. See, China will like lose a third of its population if the oil doesn't flow through the Straits of Hormuz. Okay. So what are some of one of the things that's a fallout would be is like $150, $250 oil. All around the world. The next would be is Putin. You might remember, you probably don't because Putin's demonized in America. He went to the UN as the planes were flying into Syria and said Russia can no longer stand what the United States is doing. We can no longer watch this passively. And they flew and they tried to prevent the overthrow of Assad. Well, Iran is 40 times more of a threat to Russia than Syria is. So the kind of thing that might happen is Putin and Xi get together somewhere, I don't know, in Eastern Russia or Mongolia or something like that, and say Russia and China can no longer stand what has come from the war, what's called the War on Terror. And we've decided we've had to take extreme action. And a tidal wave hits the Long Beach port in Los Angeles and then hits the Newport News Navy Yard in Virginia with a 250-foot wall of water. That would be from a nuclear weapon under the ocean that just lifts, makes a big depression and then it makes a big thing. And then 250 feet of water start racing towards the coast. These fucking people don't care, right? Stephen Miller, we're going to do whatever we want. You ought to look at take me up on it again. There's a map. You can put it on Manus. You can do it for free. You can do it for $19.95. You don't have to send us any money. This is going out to everybody for free. I'm just trying to help the cause because I don't know, like I'm wired that way. You can put a map up of your own state and you can really start to look at it and say like, where does housing come from? Where does healthcare come from? Where do my eggs come from? Because the inflation that you saw coming out of COVID is nothing compared to what would happen if there's an escalation with Iran and it goes the wrong way. Now, Trump likes to blow things up and then like have a piece of chocolate cake and go out on TV. Unbelievable. Blew up the whole side of a mountain. The mountain was there, now the mountain's gone. He'll do that. That's really what he likes to do. But I don't know. There's only so many bombs you could throw in so many countries until someone throws a fucking bomb back. These people think they're untouchable. That's why they fuck, rape, murder, and eat children. They're completely untouchable. Now, let me just talk about that for a minute. You understand the conspiracy that is Epstein-Wexner is also in the judicial system. You understand that, right? Like they don't just have like these parties and like these weird things in islands in New Mexico and shit, and don't ever think to recruit somebody in, like, for example, somebody was just treated by frequently when you have these weird things where people go into the hospital and don't come out, they're treated by doctors from Israel. Are you implying that there's a conspiracy why wouldn't it include doctors in the hospital system? Why wouldn't it include judges? Why wouldn't it include universities? Why wouldn't Barry Stern be able to pick up the phone and call the SWAT team in New York City and deploy the SWAT team? He doesn't even call the fucking mayor. You think this doesn't apply to the courts? It's going to be 100 years dealing with this, people. So, you might want to start making new arrangements. It's not even hard. It's not even expensive. There's AI, there's agentic AI, there's blockchain, there's Ethereum, there's Aragon, there's Ultra, there's all this stuff sitting around waiting for people to use it. And people are like, no, I don't understand that. I don't know. That's not how it works. What we do is we get up in the morning and we invest in indexes. Oh, okay. If you really know what indexes are like the economy is run by the Kremlin. All the money goes to 12 people and it gets put in indexes, and corporations buy back their own. They don't even deploy the money we put in the indexes. You understand that? The money that we put in NVIDIA doesn't make chips. It just runs up the stock price to somebody who sold it. Peter Thiel sold all his NVIDIA. So you've been pumping the index and the NASDAQ and NVIDIA stock with your money. Peter Thiel watched it go up like this, cashes out, takes $6 billion, and uses that to attack our political system. Catherine Austin Fitts crushes that whole story. She makes that loop just perfectly understandable, from our investment into market cap, which gets sold and pumped back into the political system, rinse and repeat. And then the president and the attorney general stand up and say, the Dow's at 50,000. All we're doing is just giving more money away to oligarchs that control us and who are insane and eat children. So you have all these new technologies to work with. Many of them are inexpensive. Many of them are free. The agents are very inexpensive. Tokenization is very inexpensive. I like to explain, let's go back to the 5 million thing. In order to make 5 million new cows, the first thing you'd need to do is get about 500,000 females out of the I don't know what to call it, literally off the feedlots, so that they don't go to the butcher. Okay? Sending your money to indexes doesn't do that. That's why that's why the population of cattle is going like this. Home sales are at a 40-year low, right? interest rates are really pretty reasonable. I think mortgage rates, my son just looked, I think it's 6%. We're not putting money into the things that we need because we're putting money into the war on terror. And a big part of the war on terror, I believe that the war on terror and the stock market are the same thing. In other words, if we win and take out Iran, Iran will, in a desperate move, close the Straits of Hormuz with the help of Russia and China. If we lose, we could see a sort of uncontrolled decline of the dollar, or interest rates move up like they are in Japan. It's not really happening here because our interest rates are controlled by the Treasury. But either way, well, here, I'll change the subject a little bit and then wind this down. Our kids are not going to live through the same thing that we lived through. Since the end of the Cold War, the Fed is data dependent. It's going to cut rates. Congress is going to forever lower lower tax rates. By the way, we just lost another couple $1 trillion if the tariffs end. You understand that, right? They've lowered taxes on the rich, on oligarchs, so that they could put them on. This is why Israel, what does tariffs in Israel have to do with each other? Did you ever think about that? It's not really in any textbook that says tariffs really work significantly. Why is Trump so focused on his tariffs? He has to pay for the war. Rich people can't pay for the war because rich people have to keep investing in inflated assets like stocks and real estate and private equity. Private equity is in a fucking disaster. So they had to cut taxes on this blob oligarchs, right? They had to cut taxes on them so they could keep throwing money at these because if nobody bids on whatever is your favorite asset, a building in St. Louis or stocks or whatever, if the bidding just goes down by 1%, the prices collapse. So they had to keep pumping that. They had to take the deficit to 7% because that acts like a bank. It pushes capital into the economy. I did a piece called Trump and Treasury, a piece called Trump and Fed, and I was like, I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. I was just like, I think Trump is just going to sort of restructure the whole finance. And of course, it's not Trump. It's the new system being born. But the tariffs are paid for by the American people. It's like $1,600 per household per year. And it's another wealth transfer. See, all the wealth has to keep going up. Index funds, private equity, real estate. But nobody can build any house. We can't have the price of housing come down. It would wipe out the banking. So everything has to constantly go up. If anything interrupts all that, it is lights out for the American economy. Blue Owl just ended its it can't get financing. It closed. Blue Owl is a kind of private equity called a business development corporation. It's actually not private equity because it brings in public money. But for this conversation, just pretend that it's private equity. Like Facebook and Meta, I think they have $36 billion off the balance sheet, sort of Lehman Brothers kind of shit. So this big AI thing, this big Hail Mary OpenAI, $890 billion worth of no revenue, and it's all being financed with this off-balance sheet mortgage sausage kind of a replay, and it just seized up. Blue Owl just seized up. So the war on terror thing that transitioned with Trump into like the AI thing, that's seizing. It's running out of money. If you can picture in your mind, and I think it's hard to, what did the end of the Civil War really look like? Well, Grant had like 115,000 guys. I think Lee, through the attrition, was probably at like 75 or 85,000, but still enough to like defend themselves. The problem was they had no food. Problem was they couldn't carry their muskets. There was no corn and bacon to feed them. Dysentery, lice, tattered uniforms. They couldn't carry their weapons. They couldn't march. That's what the end of the war looks like. Our kids can't afford homes. That's what the end of the war looks like. In the United States of America. I mean, it's just, I'm going to drive through West Virginia. It's just land everywhere, right? Undeveloped. Fucking everywhere. If you cross the border to Canada, it's just trees to the Arctic Circle. Our kids aren't allowed to have homes. There's no money for that. Kids can't have homes. You're going to have to do all this shit yourself, people. Mitch McConnell ain't coming to save you. Now, the fact that only one person took me up on, running a map through Manus, in one hand says that like my project is like foolhardy, right? On the other hand, it shows that nobody gets the joke yet. You follow me? Nobody gets it. We're going to talk about the woman whose mother was stolen from the garage in Florida and shit like that. We're going to talk about, Wexner and the Epstein files. I'm sure there'll be another round of Epstein files come out. The horror that is the U.S. economy, 12% of American men under the age of 30 have a house and a wife. Like Palestinians. So maybe that's the way I should like wind this down. What you're really seeing is the finances since the Cold War ended, and then the war on terror began, has all been to maintain the false premise that the stock market represents the economy. And the baby boomers have gone for that. From Reagan on, the baby boomers have come to believe that like the stock market going up proves that it's all working. Now, people like Jim Rogers and Mark Faber would explain to us that that's actually a form of inflation. What do you mean a form? Well, there's different kinds of inflation. The price of gold can run up. The price of housing can run up. The price of commodities can run up. You never really know where the money's going to go. But back to my point, you would think just for fun, like there's one person in North America dicking around with Manus and a map this morning in Opportunity Zones, and she's figuring it all out. She's like, oh my God, there's all this land and resources and all these opportunities, and there's no taxes, and nobody knows what to do with it. Nobody even knows that these things exist. It's because they don't want you to like look at the world around you, right? They want you to look at all of Sam Altman's traveling to India. Sam Altman isn't even a fucking employee of OpenAI. He doesn't even own any equity. It's just a show. They fired him. It's all Hunger Games shit, people. By the way, that woman that wrote those books lives in Sandy Hook, just saying. What? What'd you say? Weird coincidence. By the way, that was a big piece of salmon I got at Aldi. It was $7.99. Salmon is cheaper than beef in America. Beef. You could just take a Black Angus cow and just open a gate from a truck right here and just let the cow out, and it would survive. Right? Nobody'd have to do anything to it. Just walk around, eat grass, and lay in the sun with its cat. Like, you don't even have to do anything. And beef is double digits. Basic hamburgers, like, basically right at $9.99 a pound, I think. And there's no money being invested in it. Nobody even talks about it. If you went on Bloomberg and started talking about the price of beef, and I have a great idea for an investment thing, all we need, people, is 5 million cows, 5 million homes, and $5 million invested in every opportunity zone. You can go get on Manus right now for $19.95 and start playing with that. But, I know, the Olympics are on, and, there's other things to pay attention to. But, no, so stay tuned on Saturdays, and right at the end of February, beginning of March, we'll have these relationships laid out. These are relationships for you, not for me. Okay? These things are being built for you. That's what I'm saying. Like, go get the map, go get the thing, and start playing with it. You're like implying that, like, everyday people could sort of like underwrite their own stuff and like make Exactly. But is Kevin O'Leary gonna like wake up one day and say, let's invest in fucking cattle? No. None of those people know how to do anything. All they know how to do is extract. There's nothing left to extract from America. Their big fantasy of taking over the world is the next one is Iran, and then they think that they're going to take over Russia and China. These are crazy people. They're goofy, crazy people running your country. They're possessed. They're literally possessed. Whenever you go into the thing that's, they say like it's sexual assault, it's No. No, they made a fucking movie about it, people. Remember the movie Monsters, Inc., where our civilization lives off the screams of children? Do you think that was some sort of like big joke that they made that movie? Fuck no. That's who runs your country. So, you might want to get a map, and you might want to get some Manus, and you might want to learn about tokenization and opportunity zones, and where cattle come from, and where housing comes from, and maybe it's not a good thing that my 25-year-old has $200,000 in debt and is going to go buy a house for $600,000. Everybody does it. Everybody thinks that that's the way America has to run. It's because the billionaires and trillionaires want us to operate that way. So I'll leave you with this. Thomas Jefferson. If we ever give the bankers the ability to create money first through inflation, then through deflation, our children will wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. It happened. It happened. That's where we are. If you don't know anything else that I just said, that you can go find that Thomas Jefferson. It's actually not an exact quote. It's actually like a mishmash of other stuff put together. That's where we are. You're like at your Thomas Jefferson moment. So let's all calm down and listen to Yacht Rock. Going to the Watergate Hotel Sunday. Sunday? No, I won't be there Sunday. I said this wrong. I'll be there Monday. There might be a snowstorm, but I headed to Washington, D.C., staying overnight Sunday night, and we'll be in Georgetown and at the Watergate Hotel on Monday. DM me if you want to have a cup of coffee. Manus AI is a Chinese AI. Means hand. It's originally made for engineering and robotics, and it was bought by Meta. Yeah, the free Manus will do most everything until you start really getting into it and saying like, all right, let's build, 100,000 homes in Southern California, and then it'll start to chew up a lot of tokens. It's not the crypto tokens, it's the tokens that get you into the large language models to pull the data out. Someone just made a comment about wiping out all the debt and debt default. And of course, those are like biblical things that used to happen. You can go look that up. The people that control us control the debt. It's not hard. That's how the debt is how they control us. That's why Trump wants his tariffs. It's just another form of extraction of, when they order the alternator for this, I'm going to rent a Ford Edge. Nice vehicle, by the way. The alternator comes from, I don't know, Korea or something. The rich people can't pay for anything, right? Because they really don't have as much real wealth underneath them. What they have is market cap. They have inflated asset prices underneath them. It's very, very fragile. It's time to get real, people. All right, see ya.